What's up, guys? So today I have a rather disturbing story to share with you all about the whole DOGE thing. So the integration or the infiltration, however you want to look at it, this is a whistleblower who works in IT at the National Board of Labor. And this IT professional who works behind the scenes to secure and monitor the network for threats
claims that DOGE gained access to closely guarded data, and that could have led directly to a, quote, significant cybersecurity breach.
It appeared to be very concerning. And I'd have to agree, especially when you read the full report, and even more so when you find out what happened to him in his real life after actually filing this report. And in fact, when you read into this story more deeply, you find out that first he approached his fellow staffers in IT there. Now, once he told them that he was going to blow the whistle, suddenly something very strange and threatening happened in his own life.
Prior to our filing the whistleblower disclosure this week, last week, somebody went to Dan's home and taped a threatening note, a menacing note on his door with personal information within it.
While he was at work, yeah.
While he was at work, and it also contained photographs of him walking his dog taken by a drone.
This was on your front door to your home.
Taped straight on, not inconspicuous, just right there in a white envelope.
You can't get any more direct threat than that.
Before he even had a chance to file this report. To me, that suggests that it is possible, quite possible, that someone else on his team could have even informed on him being able to blow the whistle on this. So let's go ahead and talk about the story. So basically what happened, and as we know, the whole DOGE thing, which is the Department of Government Efficiency, is intended to shrink down government. This is their own presentation of what they're doing. And also the integration of AI into governance is what it appears to be part of that. So we're seeing a lot of people get fired, a lot of people getting laid off. So a lot of strange stuff's happening, a lot of things that seem a little out of touch with the everyday person. So this is about the Whistleblower Report. There's a thread on it, but I also have several other articles, and I'm going to be sharing with you the information I was able to find. I've been reading about this over the last 2-week period. So basically what happened was this person who works in IT says he was actually stalked and threatened. We're going to talk more details on that, but let's talk about the actual events that led up to this. So what happened was, first thing is they come in, they say they need to get full tenant owner access, something that is not given to people who are actually doing auditing. This is something that would give them unrestricted permission to not only read, but to copy and even alter the data on those systems. So the databases, the code on the systems itself, all of this. But not only that, they requested, these DOGE staffers requested specifically that there would be no logging of their activities. Talk about transparency. Isn't this supposed to be the most transparent administration, the most transparent Department of Government Efficiency? Well, then why wouldn't you actually allow these staffers that work in the government to actually see what you're up to? How is that for transparency? We also talked to Congress about this situation. He also noticed massive data exfiltration. 10 gigabytes of data itself was removed from the system, the actual databases. Now, some of these databases included different whistleblowers, included people that worked for the government who also had information on various activities of different contractors, different people, and some of that could even relate to some of the contractors or employers of the people who may even work at DOGE. That's some of what has been suggested in this. Now, we don't have everything, of course, because obviously not everything is public yet, but what we do know is that they needed the highest level of access to not only turn off all logging, but they wanted to be able to alter, copy, and read the data, which means it wasn't collecting or recording data like it should have. So that means they can't actually monitor what they're up to. Not only this, in this report, they are stating that they noticed that after the DOGE staffers created their logins, within 15 minutes of creating DOGE staffer requested logins, those logins were accessed, or at least attempted to be accessed, from a Russian IP address. So this is really alarming stuff. Now, were they using a VPN that happened to be based in Russia? I would have to ask if they would even be allowed to do such for the U.S. government's work. I mean, even if it were an innocent, quote-unquote innocent activity of logging in from a VPN that happened to be based in Russia, I don't believe in government they would even allow connections from Russian IP addresses, given the history of it being one of the number one threats that the U.S. actually has for government access and infiltration. So it's very strange. They also used an external library to rotate IP addresses for scraping and brute force attacks. So there's a lot of information on this report. We have some of the documents here as well. So as mentioned, within 15 minutes of the DOGE accounts being created, attackers or whoever it was in Russia tried logging into those. Now, it's possible it was a VPN or a proxy in that way that was used by a DOGE staffer. So we can't confirm that it was actually Russians that were doing this. But regardless, there were 20 such attempts, and they were, in fact, at least at this point in time, they were blocked. So these login attempts were blocked due to the location-based access policies, but it is quite suspicious that they were coming from Russia to begin with. Now, what's most alarming about this report is during his preparation for this disclosure, he actually found a drone-based photograph of himself walking his dog, along with information, personal information, inside a printed piece of paper with the photo of him walking his dog, and they taped it. Someone taped it. I'm not claiming we know who taped it, but it is very strange that when he was preparing for this disclosure, when he had only told his fellow employees about his plans to disclose this information, he found an envelope with a piece of paper in it that had him walking his dog that was shot from a drone, showing that he was actually being stalked and threatened. It was a threatening act. I mean, why else would you send someone who's planning a whistleblower report a photo of themselves in their own house, in their own neighborhood, walking their dog, and then also list information on his family members? So yes, very much an alarming story and very much something I'm concerned about. Now, I also have to say, now, if Daniel sees this, there are also printer dots that can be tracked down to the very printer purchase, down to the very printer location. They should be looking into this. They should be tracing this printer paper. They should be tracing what printer printed this threatening note out. That would be something they've hopefully already been looking at, but it is something I haven't heard anyone else mention, so I wanted to mention it in this video because, you know, obviously somebody who's being threatened, to me that says somebody's up to something or somebody doesn't want this kind of transparency on what's happening. And the fact that 10 gigabytes of data was exfiltrated, meaning it was taken, copied, and sent to various places, and not only that, but they even exposed a lot of these government systems to the public-facing internet. Now, normally these kinds of sensitive systems would only be relegated into an internal network only, not accessible from outside on the public internet. That is bringing just another huge risk. Your intent is one thing, but when you take a major risk like this to change the entire systems of the government, well, someone has to be responsible, and you have to have a person to be responsible. You can't rely on AI. So I wanted to bring this report to you guys today and just talk a little bit about this story because I think it's a huge story that hasn't been getting enough attention, and I'm hoping we'll get more information, so I'll update this. As mentioned, you know, none of this shows any intent of ill will, so hopefully it's all above board, but it's hard to believe that it's completely above board when they're turning off the logging features, when they're exfiltrating 10 gigabytes according to Daniel Barillas, and in the process they're also logging in from Russian IP addresses using the very accounts that they created. So I hope you guys enjoyed this story. I'd love to know your thoughts. What do you think this is? Do any of you have some more insight into this story? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, and I will update you guys on this story if there's anything big and new that comes out on it. And that's what I got today, guys. Make sure to like this video, share this video to help inform others, and I'll be back later with more on how to protect your security and privacy.